Hello, and welcome to the video podcast of 27 by 40. My name is Chris.
This is Emmett.
Each week on this video, we look at the top five, or we pick our top five movie posters for a given year. This year,
1981.
yeah. And
It's like more like every other week.
every other week, yeah.
Yeah.
Or each episode, anyway.
Yeah.
So we've dug through all the movie posters of 1981, see what we like. I was definitely revealed to me while doing this. I didn't realize how blind I was to most of the movies that came out in 81. Like, I had seen, I've seen, the big ones.
Right.
But that wasn't nearly as many. I was like, never heard of it, never heard of it, never heard of it, never heard. It was so many movies. I'm like, movie with famous people, never heard of it. Never just. And I was like, and I'm wondering if this is because I have a bit of a 70s blind spot, if maybe 80, 81, there's a little carryover there before it starts getting to 83, 84 where I really start to.
So on here, we've done 85. That was our first episode.
Yeah.
So that's more in the middle of the 80s. Yeah. And then we've done 79 as well, which would be even closer to this, but in the previous decade.
And I feel it was very similar to 79. It was a lot of movies that I had never heard of. And I thought, 80s, I'm going to know most of these. And I'm like, wow, 81, I really, a little more.
I wouldn't say I had an issue.
But again, it's not a requirement to know or see the movies for
sure,
this.
Right, yeah. But for me, it was more just finding ones that, just the poster thing. Because in some cases, there were movies that I really liked from that year. And this is what, this always happens. But my favorite movies of each given year aren't necessarily the ones with the posters that I like the best.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're just that poster gets the job done. But it doesn't stand out when you're making a list like this.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of split the difference and be it was a bit odd because obviously it's a little less. There's some big releases, but it's not one of those years that just really stands out, where 82 or 84 or those ones where you're just I know so many movies right off the top of my head from those years, and they're some of the biggest movies ever. And on this one, it was I know a lot of these, but they're definitely not as many of the sort of big year. It's definitely not as much that.
And on the poster side, very mishmash year. Everything from the painted poster to the our dreaded it's just a bunch of floating heads to actual well done to some real you starting to see the early parts of that 80s poster experimentation.
And quite a few especially on comedies and stuff, quite a few of those kind of more old school cartoony kind of posters. I was way more of those than I was expecting. And
again, I think holdover from the 70s.
I'm open to those,
almost 60s
or even 50s in some cases. I'm open to those in principle if they're really good, but or
there's something interesting about them.
I tend to pick those ones because that's just not really my thing.
So we're going to draw all the characters, except we're going to give them huge heads so you can see the actors. So it's this weird
cartoony
painted bobblehead. And I'm I don't like that.
I'm open to it if they can make it work. It just very rarely works for me. I mean, I shouldn't really say that because they're fine for the types of movies that they make them for.
Sure.
They're just not my personal. I'm not a big on those kind of movies either. Right. Fair.
All right. So I went first last week.
Okay,
so
we'll
fire you up here. So this is your fifth one.
Number 5. Yes.
Your number 5.
American Werewolf in London. Classic. I love that poster because it's very iconic. It's very famous.
You could show me this with nothing on it, like no writing on it. I know, that's the American Werewolf. Like it is. Yeah.
It's just like the two guys with like the contrasting, like the dark and red, like jackets,
big full moon,
the moon and everything, and and that like look back and up, which is really interesting. Like it's very kind of it makes you sort of be like
it's like exaggerated over the shoulder.
And then of course like the text with like the whole like from the director of Animal
glad
House.
This movie tells me it's a monster movie though. So
monster movie.
It's the monster.
It's not just a monster movie. It's the monster movie. And then from the director of Animal House, a different kind of animal, because kind of joking off of the. It's like, oh, this isn't just like a goofy comedy like Animal House. This is like a different kind of thing.
It's a very well done version of that. Like we're just gonna almost like take a still from the movie kind of deal.
Yeah.
But then they left it kind of plain enough.
Yeah.
That like it makes the text really pop. Like they didn't embellish like the picture part.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple, like a really simple like font, like just the title just like out, which like it's tricky because it's a very long title, so deciding how to handle that and what to do with it can be a tricky thing. It's just,
do you center that
like you say, it's one of those posters that even though it has text on it, you could take everything off and like immediately still identify it. It's very iconic. It'd be like if you took like the Star Wars poster and took off all of the text. It's like you would just be like, that's Star Wars. Well, obviously extreme example because Star Wars is so famous, but you know what I mean.
It's a fairly famous movie.
But you know what I mean. Like even people who haven't seen this are like, oh, I recognize that image. They may not know the title. They may not know exactly what movie it's from, but like it's a very recognizable image in the pop culture sphere.
And the readability on the title there, I think they put the break in the perfect spot.
Oh.
So you read it as An American Werewolf in London. Like you mentally put a comma in, which actually kind of fits in the because you wouldn't normally put a comma in a title of a movie.
Because like if they really wanted to, they could have just called it like American Werewolf.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would have been kind of a weird title, but like it would have still kind of worked, and like it would have been like, oh, that's sort of interesting, Yeah.
But putting in the in London part was
I mean it's what makes it it's very quirky. It's like what makes it kind of it makes it even more memorable because you're like, wait, it's An American Werewolf in London. Yeah, it's a very quirky title. Always has been. It's one of its kind of things that really makes it stand out.
All right, it's one of those movies where it's like the few cases where like people don't abbreviate it when they say it.
No, well, it's hard. It's kind of hard to
because you could abbreviate it, and people would know what you're talking about, but they don't.
Yeah, it's hard to abbreviate it because,
because it doesn't make a good
it doesn't really get
if you just want to use the letter no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 5.
Oh yeah,
Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
A painted poster, but a very specific style of painted poster.
True.
Reminiscent of fantasy novels of the era, late 70s, early 80s. Excuse me. I seen this movie, don't remember anything of it, so can't say how accurate what is being shown here is to the movie. But I really liked just the style of the painting. Love the font. The Dragon Slayer font
the logo.
Yeah, the logo of the movie there is great.
Pretty good.
Just some simple text on there.
Album. like a band name or something.
Yeah, well, it's sort of, and I mean the cover has got a bit of that kind of
metal,
heavy metal kind of style,
old school metal kind of thing.
It's got one of my favorite things. This is something that came up. I think I can't remember what year was when we did Mad Max, a movie poster, where it's got part of the art actually sort of comes out of the other part of the poster bit. His spear is actually outside of the painting.
Square that the painting is in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Actually, funny enough, I didn't even really notice that initially, and seeing it actually really elevates the poster because
I think the only thing I wish is I kind of wish the title was actually I feel like there's more room there. It could have been bigger, but
yeah, it's a little shrunk.
A little bit of text. not too much, not,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In the Dark Ages, magic was a weapon, love was a mystery, adventure was everywhere, and dragons were real. Yeah. By the way, none of those things are real, by the way.
No. Yeah. Love,
none of those things are actual things.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the Dark Ages, none of those things were correct. Yeah. Different Dark Ages, I guess. I don't know.
Well, heck, even the term Dark Ages is generally considered
that's a misnomer
now. They don't actually use that term in history.
It's not it's not accurate anymore.
But it's a fantasy movie.
Yeah,
I just think it's funny
from
because
1981.
It's a fantasy movie that's kind of putting itself in the thing of just like as if it's like in history. Mm-hmm. As opposed to it being like a different world, like a magical world.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting.
Yeah. Well, they try to we're gonna ground it so you can identify it, but then we're gonna make it. Yeah.
Which is fine. I have nothing.
Thought you knew the Dark Ages.
I have nothing against that. It's a very classic approach. It's like sort of like, well, what if that era was the way that the actual the folk tales and stuff the stories say, but it was actually like that instead of it just being a story. Anyways, that's good.
All right,
it's a good one.
Okay, so now you're number 4.
Yeah. So
much better than the.
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed that it would be all about the classic. The famous poster that usually is seen for this, which is
him standing with the shirt open,
very dynamic with the whip,
all the cast painted around him. Yeah,
that is actually the re-release poster. Yes. That was not the poster when it came out in '81. Mm. This was the actual original theatrical poster. Hence the whole Indiana Jones, the new hero from the creators of Jaws and Star Wars.
Because it's a much better poster.
This was first introducing it. See, I would have gone for the other poster.
Oh, really?
In a second. Because it's so iconic. It's so famous.
It is. But the more...
it's the poster. It's still
the
to
more
this
I
day
looked at
is the cover of that movie.
Yeah.
It's still...
The more I look at it, he has... However they painted Indy, he has an extremely goofy look on his face.
I think that's what they're going for, though.
Yeah,
because they were emphasizing the fun. Because he has this kind of hey.
Yeah.
I was like,
he's doing the whip, and
that's. I'm sure that's what they're going for.
Mm-hmm. See, I like this. This almost made my list. I really like this poster. Yeah.
It definitely would have been better if the painted color part was the whole thing rather than being on a white background.
Yes,
that's a little glare.
Well, you know what it looks like? It looks like there was more to this art, and they just cut around it to put in the other stuff.
That you have just this stark white.
Should have been black.
Should have been black. Black would have helped too, but having stark white with the painting over top. Although again, it goes out. From the bottom.
It
goes out from the bottom a little bit.
Again, which speaks to me that this is a bigger picture that they cropped from.
But but it's still good. The art's really nice. Mm-hmm. He looks great.
I like how the rope he's climbing down is attached to the R in Raiders. Which is awesome.
Well, incorporating the little bits of art, from action from the movie type of thing into the bottom there is very clever.
Yeah, the chase scene with him on the horse.
Yeah. That's all very clever. Mm-hmm. It's still it's nice, but I would have preferred to pick the other one, but that's literally the re-release one. That's from the '82 re-release. So I was like, well, that's fine. What it means is it just went a little further down on the list.
Yeah.
But I still pick it because it's still it's still Raiders.
Yeah.
And there's just other stuff that it ranks higher. Mm-hmm. That's my 4.
Nice. All right.
If the other poster had been a valid choice, I probably would have put it up? 3.
Oh, okay.
Maybe even 2, just for its sentimental value.
Yeah.
Well, Raiders is also my favorite.
Well, it's a
Indiana
great
Jones movie, the first one.
Yeah.
I realize that's not a controversial thing, but a lot of people do Last Crusade.
I like Last Crusade
because it is very kind of more fun.
But the thing is Last Crusade isn't anything without.
Right.
Lost
well, obviously,
Ark, right?
yes. But it's valid for people to say that Last Crusade is their favorite one just because it's more of just a fun romp.
Sure.
But I like Raiders the best. I just think it's one of those
I just want the art part of this and get rid of the poster part of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it exists.
Yeah. That'd be like the cover to the soundtrack LP record that would come out at that time.
Oh, I'm sure it exists. I'm sure there'll be no issue with that. Anyways, all right. So it'll be your 4?
My 4.
Oh, okay. Here's your usual.
I'm just kidding. It's not this one. I'm also kidding. It's not this one. This is my number 4. I thought I'd get you with my ultra minimalist.
Yeah, well, you did, because that black and white with like nothing on it is very much
and
your thing.
I saw those and I'm like, 2 movies in the same year with the same style of poster, and it's just so ridiculously...
I didn't even see those ones, to be honest.
I mean, they just look like nothing as you're scrolling past them. Yeah. So, what I did go for was American Pop, which is... in that vein of what we were talking about, the cartoonish, to some degree, certain parts of it much more exaggerated than others.
It's an animated film. So.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't actually seen this movie. I've seen most of other Ralph Bakshi stuff. Yeah. But I have not seen this one. I really liked how it's sort of like a bunch of different things all kind of like framed together to meet, like the top bit. And then he's like pointing forward, and it looks like the cone of light is like coming from his finger, and then the other guy, but then that is not part of the... Yeah. It's like a collage, but like very carefully put together. Yeah. I can't, being that I haven't seen the movie, I can't just, say like how much of this is like reflective of what's in the movie, but...
I mean, I'm sure it's all things that are in it. But
this was one to what you were saying. This was one where I had a hard time finding one that wasn't like looked bad, like in bad condition. Even this has got some fold lines, and this is the image from IMDb. So like that is even
which
as
is
good
usually
as,
really small.
Yeah. This is as good as IMDb could pull, which says something about it.
It's too busy for me.
But
it's not
much.
bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad. Like it definitely was on my like oh, don't scroll past that too quick because that's worth a thought. Yeah, kind of list. Like it's good. It's just ultimately it's too busy.
Just
for
too
me.
busy for you. Yeah,
but
that was the other reason I paired it with the other. Yeah. 2 joke ones because it's the exact opposite.
But it's good. It's good. Like I said, I mean, it was one that definitely stopped me. Like as I was going click, 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 click. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, well, American Pop, okay, maybe. Yeah. But a little too busy for me. No. It'd be further down.
I mean, it is very busy.
It would fall off of the 5, but it would, if I was to do like 10 or something, it would probably be on.
Yeah. It's sort of in that. Sometimes I kind of like that busy.
The logo's nice too.
I had that. Really nice. That. Was that really busy cartoonish one with Frank Zappa?
Oh, Baby Snakes?
Yeah.
Or 200 Motels.
200 Motels, yeah. Again, crazy busy poster, just yeah. But yeah. All right, so on to your 3?
Yeah. So speaking of black and white contrast.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the only, one of this... one that I could find that it's got like where you can see the creases.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing I could do about that because unfortunately it had to be this one because there are other posters for this movie, but this is the classic one that I remember like from when I was a kid and I would see this movie in the store and stuff.
Good old Gallipoli.
Yeah, it's a great in terms of that type of minimalist, contrasty.
Also good movie.
Style. Yeah, it's really good. But because the other posters for that movie are very like standard, very It's like a bunch of just like standing around and screenshots from the movie. Like it's not really.
That is definitely one of the things of this era. There's like the attempt at doing like a good theatrical release poster, and then what about the alternate versions of this of the posters did, and they're like you said, they're all just like you just did some lazy screen grabs and
so
I mean not literally modern day screen grabs, but
So I have no idea where this falls in terms of because of the rarity of being able to find this. I'm guessing maybe it wasn't the standard poster.
Oh, the actual maybe foreign release,
but it's the poster that I remember. When I was a kid. Not necessarily when it came out. I was too little when it first came out. But when it was in video stores. And stuff. It's what I remember seeing. It's how I identify this movie. I mean, I saw this image for a long time before I ever saw the actual film.
For sure.
Like before I ever watched it. So it's one of those cases where an image really sticks with me from an early age, and it's a specific, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like, Backwards Way, like the Platoon, where it's the Platoon poster being taken from the scene of when Willem Dafoe's getting shot in the end, right? And he's up like, it kind of looks like that.
It's got the same vibes.
Same sort of vibes, but of course this did come first.
Yeah.
So I guess but it puts me in that kind of mindset, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very iconic again, and particularly on a personal level because I really remember it from an early age, seeing this image and it being very impactful.
Yeah.
Long before I ever knew what Gallipoli actually was.
Oh,
or what the movie was about, or had seen the movie.
Yeah.
It's just an impactful image.
Well, it's from a place you've never heard of, so.
Yeah. Which I guess at the time, probably true.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. No, that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And great tagline.
Yeah, so it's very unfortunate that I wasn't able to find one that didn't have the creases, but like this literally was basically the only copy I could find on the internet
of this one.
Particular poster. So, yeah.
All right. So now my three.
Three, I think, yeah.
Pennies from Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Painted poster.
Yeah.
Steve Martin movie that I've never seen.
Yeah.
Which I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
Which caught me by surprise. I was like, oh.
It's a bit of a controversial...
Oh, is it not good?
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Well, like, if you look at it, is it not a good movie?
Well, it's hard to really... You may want to just read up on it a bit before and make your own mind up as to what you think, because it's not... It's difficult to convey... Like, I don't even know if this is the poster. I don't even know if a trailer would
actually help.
Help. Like, it's one kind of thing I feel like you kind of have to read up on a little bit because it's a very complicated situation.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. But I really like just like the stylings of it.
It's nice. And
it's like it's a couple of different images like superimposed over each other. It's, him and her, but then it's like, but there's like a window here because you got the shade draw. Yeah. Then there's like the guy dancing up front. I guess there's the musical part of it, and then like there's like whatever that light beam is, but that cuts out of into like the next part of the poster, and it almost like it feels like a little much, like in terms of like how it's painted, Like, wow, this was actually the theatrical poster?
It's hard for me to, it's a little bit...
This also led to some confusion because while looking this poster, like looking for a good copy of this, I kept also seeing pictures of another actor. It turns out there's a British TV show called Pennies from Heaven that came out in Britain earlier, but had an American release in 1981 and has Bob Hoskins in it. And so I kept seeing pictures of Bob Hoskins, and I'm like, that's weird. They don't credit Bob Hoskins in this.
Might be that this is based on that.
Yes. Well, that's what it is.
Like it's like a remake.
Yes, yeah. This is like the movie version.
But I'm not sure.
And because that was like a limited series. Yeah. It was like a 2-season limited series.
They did the same sort of thing.
And Steve Martin is playing the Bob Hoskins character.
Yeah.
But I was very confused and one like, why wouldn't you credit Bob Hoskins on your movie poster if you've got Bob Hoskins? And it took some digging, and oddly enough, it was like IMDb amazingly unhelpful in this point because somebody, I guess, had messed with, and under this movie's listing on IMDb, they had images from the Bob Hoskins one. And I'm like, nobody's cleaned that up.
That's really confusing.
Nobody cares about this movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like a Wikipedia entry that like somebody edited that nobody's went and double checked. Yeah. And so that really caught me. Yeah. And then I finally sussed it out when I was thinking like, well, Bob Hoskins was doing in the early 80s. That might have been a British release or something like that, and that led me down the right path.
Yeah.
But
yeah. All right.
So, on to your number 2. Again, that almost made my list.
It's really nice. I actually kind of want to see this movie now.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, so it's like it says creators of Alien bring new terror to Earth.
We'll let Dan take it.
And
this
it has
time.
effects, like the special makeup effects and stuff, and all that kind of stuff is like Stan Winston done. It got like a lot of apparently. Those elements were fairly acclaimed. Like it wasn't necessarily like a hugely impactful, popular movie, but like those aspects, the Stan Winston effects and the Dan O'Bannon, Ronald Shusett writing, apparently were both pretty highly regarded.
Nice.
So I'm like, I'm kind of interested now. But it's a beautiful poster.
Yeah.
I love
Great
those
image.
colors.
Yeah,
those colors are so pleasing. That gradient of like those like blues and greens and whites just all blending, and like dark. The black and gray,
because there's sort of like nothing to like compare it against.
Yeah,
the face coming up through the ground like looks like it might be humongous.
Yeah, well, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like Eternals. With the celestial emerging from the earth thing and being like turned to stone and frozen. And it's sort of like makes me think of that. Like this is this like a huge monument of a head. I'm like I think it's supposed to be like representing like a person being buried.
Well, being that it's called dead and buried
to their
neck,
type of thing. But like because of how artistically it's portrayed, and because there's no other scale, it looks like it's like some sort of
like it's the kind of thing.
Monument
if this was a sci-fi movie, you'd have like a tiny little like space rover or some tiny astronauts nearby or something.
I don't know. It's interesting.
But I'm also I love the font for Dead and Buried.
I love the style. And it being red.
I also
in
like
contrast to because there's no red in the main image.
Yeah, it's all the blue and aquamarine.
So it contrasts so nicely, and then how it kind of fades into the black in the lower half.
The use of the and symbol rather than the word and also I think makes it fit nicer too.
Yeah, I mean obviously that was a must.
There's one of those like time and place, and like sometimes it's wrong and sometimes
this is a beautiful poster. This was close to being my number one, even though like it's probably the only movie on this list that I haven't seen.
Actually, this is one of those like upon seeing this, I'm like, I kind of wish I'd put that on my list now. Actually, I kind of wish
it's really good. It's really good.
And I've put it on our to-do list for what we've watched. So look for that in the future.
Okay, cool.
All right. So now my number 2, Time Bandits. This version of the poster kind of hard to find.
I was going to say because this is not the regular one that I saw because
there was two versions of this.
Nicer.
There was two versions of this poster. One that looks like this, and there's one that looks exactly like this, except it's also got little squares all the way around it with all the cast members in it.
And that's what I saw, and I was like, nope.
I saw that.
I'm out.
I saw that, and I was like, there has to be a version of that without the.
Well, apparently there is, and it's much nicer. Yeah. Still don't think it would have made my top 5. Again, more like. It would have been more like a top 10 kind of situation, like honorable mention type of situation. I mean, it's a great movie, obviously, but
I love everything that's going on in this poster. We got the ship, but then the ship is being carried by a head. And then there's
which literally happens.
That happens in the movie. And then there's like the tower and the water, and the tower's cracked. But then it's like poking through like, wait, the sky is made of panels, and then there's a bunch of them missing.
I mean, it all makes perfect sense if you see the movie because it's like,
but it's audacious. Like, I mean, it's got that very like Terry Gilliam style,
of course.
But it's like audacious to do this because
no one else could have made.
It's sort of like. You've just put a bunch of nonsense on your poster, and I'm like, yes, you have.
Yes, you have. It's a Terry Gilliam movie. What do you want?
Also, the it's hard to read, but I also really appreciate the way over elaborate title font. It's just like you could have made that so much easier to read, but then it wouldn't.
Well, I don't mind it.
It feels.
I find it works.
I just think
the yellow makes it.
I think it's just the lettering's a little thin.
Yeah, it is.
But I really like how it all like fits, and again, it feels very thematic with the movie.
Yeah.
I think if I hadn't seen Time Bandits, this is like largely influenced by how much I like the movie.
What's the tagline there? All the dreams you've ever had and not just the good ones.
Yeah.
That's good tagline. I like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't really give anything away. It's not too on the nose, but it's also like not inaccurate.
No.
It's just a little mysterious.
And so it's, Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely a case where obviously like I like the movie a lot more than the poster, but it's not a bad poster. It's pretty good.
It's still on my, like, I have not seen this movie in a long time, and I keep meaning to rewatch it.
The colors are a little light.
Yeah, it could pop a bit more.
I have a preference for deeper color, but that's just me. Yeah. That's just preference. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
All right.
Like I said, it would be on my lower than 5 honorable mention kind of list, but it's a good one.
All right. So I guess this is your number 1.
Yeah.
James Caan's Thief.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what could beat. If anything was going to beat Dead and Buried, because when I saw that poster, I was like, that is a beautiful poster.
Let me show you what beats James Caan's Thief.
Okay.
James Caan's Thief.
Yeah.
Also my number 1.
Different.
Yeah, also my number 1.
Depending on which one you get, the color is slightly different.
Yeah, there's like some slightly more orange, slightly more white.
The one that I used was the one that had the best quality that I could find. Like this, like size-wise. So I just, I didn't have a lot of choice again.
But it's a banger of a poster. It's got that black
incredible
block printing that like the Gallipoli one has.
Yeah.
But then like rather than just being white behind it, they show like from the arc tool that he used.
Now yours is better. The one you found was definitely better quality overall. But
it doesn't have the lines. But I like the coloring on yours.
The color, I like the darker color more. Yeah. But they both work. I just prefer, like I just said with Time Bands, I prefer a slightly deeper, darker color. But either way, it works. Yeah. And the thing is that like it's one of the best posters ever made.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those like.
It is one of the best posters ever through.
Made. I was like, I had about by the time I got because on the Wikipedia listing, 81 is the movies are in alphabetical order rather than being in release order.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to Thief, I had about 9 or 10 posters picked. Yeah. And then I got to Thief and I was like, oh, right. Yeah, well, that's my number 1. Yeah. So sorry, the other ones I've already picked.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, number 1, done.
I mean, because it was alphabetical order, there was only about like 10 other movies after this. And I was like, You've got like real hard chance you last 10 movies to beat this.
Well, Time Bandits.
Time Bandits
would be after this technically.
But number 2.
But no, it's one of the best posters I think I've ever seen. I'm extremely embarrassed to say that I have not actually seen the movie.
Fantastic movie.
From what I hear, yes.
Yeah.
Everything about her, like, because when I saw this and I was like, okay, that's number 1, obviously. I like looked up the movie a bit, like not to like, I didn't read like the whole plot line or anything, but like just the general like synopsis, how it's regarded and the general what it's about. And I was like, okay, and it's also really well regarded and like. It sounds awesome. Like, it sounds right up my alley.
I mean, I only saw it recently, like a couple of years back when I went through that Michael Mann kick where I was just like watching all the Michael Mann movies.
And that's why I knew, I was just like, well, Chris has definitely seen this.
Yeah.
Because I know you were doing all the Michael Mann movies. What's crazy is this is his first theatrical film. Yes. He had only done a TV movie before this.
Yeah.
And then this was his first movie.
Home runs it on this movie. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly like he does the thing where he immediately peaks.
Yeah.
And then he follows it up with like 3 or 4 like these aren't terrible, but like they're not Thief.
Right.
And I think a lot of it is different levels of involvement, different, stuff like that, and before he starts...
you can't knock it out of the park every single time.
Before he, before he starts moving on to, like, Miami... Miami Vice. And then, and then other stuff.
Yeah, well, like I said, before this, he had just done a TV movie, so he was always involved in TV a lot. Because he was involved with, like, producing on other shows and stuff, too, besides just Miami Vice. That's obviously the most famous thing. Mm-hmm. But, like... So he always was kind of closely connected with television at the same time, like doing that and films,
Yeah. Because he was producer and director on this.
Yeah. I would assume so.
Yeah. Executive producer and director.
Yeah. And Jerry Bruckheimer. Good old Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Still alive.
But yeah, so I mean, I really want to see it now, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I almost was kind of tempted to be like, I'm gonna watch this like before we even record this. Just so that it's done, just so that I can say like, oh yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But I haven't yet, but I will soon, very soon,
Yeah.
because it sounds incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really like James Caan as an actor too. Like, we've done a bunch of stuff. Like Rollerball and like a bunch of things with him. And I mean, I always like he was great in the original Godfather. Took those squibs like a champ.
Yeah. A lot of squibs.
And like he's just great. Like he's just really good in everything. He's
but also but great poster. I really like the how they put the title of the movie in a it stands out. It's just block blue. It doesn't even.
Well, it's a logo.
It's a color not shared by any other part of the poster.
Yeah.
Not like.
And it's very much a logo. Like, it's very much a design.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a logo, not just
like a typeface.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of The Thing logo.
Yeah, sort of a bit. Yeah, because it's definitely, you can see where movies where they have much more of an idea of like, they want the logo of the movie to portray, and show, and like it becomes like the logo of the movie. Because I've seen some posters, and this is something that you don't see as much now, but a little more like the 70s and 80s, it seems, was like where like different movie posters would just have the logo in like different fonts, or like the title in different fonts, and they clearly weren't going for that like logo style,
right?
Like this is clearly making an attempt at. But
all right,
but yeah.
Well, I'm happy with that, because that's our crossover.
That's our number ones.
And,
that's good.
I mean, like I say, it's one of the best posters I've ever seen, to be completely honest.
When we got to year 2 and it hadn't come up yet, I was like, we're either in for a tie or a deep rising moment here.
Well, not necessarily. The thing about the posters thing is our tastes are quite different in many cases, so that sometimes we can diverge quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
But like,
well, like most of that list.
But I hope, like, respectfully. Like, all the things, like, there's nothing that you picked.
Even when you hate the posters I pick.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah, I mean, there's some that I kind of hate, but like, most of them, it's like, it's just.
You hate them, not me.
It's, well.
I don't put words in your mouth.
Yeah, let's not continue with that line. But it's just like when there'll be something where I'll be like, oh yeah, like, it's fine, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
But it's like respectful, like it's not like I'm not going like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, it's just like, no, like, I get it, like, for you like that. Because when it comes to just like, because the thing is a movie as a whole, there are so many different parts to it, right? Like, a movie as a whole, you have the visual aesthetic of the cinematography and the choice of shots and the light, like the lighting. So you have like even cinematography itself is broken down into a lot of pieces. Yeah. Because you have like the lighting, you have the choice of shots, you have the motion of the shot, like how the shot moves if it does. The editing comes into play there as well. You have music, you have acting, you have the writing. Even in the writing, it breaks down because you have story, dialogue, etc., etc. There are so many different elements to a movie. So, whereas like with the poster, it's just pure aesthetics. Yeah. It's like, if that...
What does this evoke? What does this show me?
Aesthetically appeals to you when you look at it,
yeah,
then it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And same for me. And so that's where the differences really come into play, where there are just certain things that I prefer and certain things that you prefer aesthetically in your posters that makes for a bit more difference. Whereas I think, like, in movies, we tend to have more crossover because there's a lot more elements at play. Yeah. And we're both tending to like...
either same and or different.
Maybe in a slightly different way or to a different degree. But, we tend to like a lot of the same kind of overall packages. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. All right. So...
sorry. Is there any other ones that kind of stood out that you wanted to mention quickly?
I think
I know we don't really do also rans for this, but
the,
sometimes if there's like a major one you want to mention,
the only real one was the Dead and Buried. I wished like that. I didn't.
But would have it actually made the list, or would
I kind of wish I had actually put it on my list?
Yeah, it's amazing. Isn't
it's very good.
Yeah,
it's very good. I probably would have bumped American Pop for it.
Fair enough.
And the one that was the most closest to making on my list was the Raiders of the Lost Ark poster.
Yeah. Okay, so
for me, the big thing on that one was I didn't like the big white border.
Right.
Like it pulled so much from it.
I don't like it, but I had to. I wasn't gonna not have Raiders on there. The other one that I was looking at that was like I would have liked was the Road Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Mad Max 2. But the thing is that the American version, the Road Warrior, didn't actually come out till well into 82.
Yes.
And in 81, it was just the Australian release, the original
Which,
Mad Max
is not
release.
Outside of the borders of our...
It was just the original Mad Max 2 release.
Of what we do here.
But... I mean, it came out like in late December. Like, it was basically like a Christmas release in Australia. It came out like late December of 81 in Australia.
Yeah.
And the original theatrical release poster for that... Nope. No, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you remember when we did 79 and all the different variants of posters there was for the first Mad Max.
Yes.
Right? And I had one of them.
And
you had a different one.
Yes.
Because there were so many different variants.
Yeah.
So for this, I was like, I remember the classic Road Warrior poster from the American release with like him just walking down.
But that's from 82.
The actual picture walking down the road.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's a good poster.
I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of a cheat. It kind of isn't because it's still the same movie, but...
Hey, you could put it in next year. When we do 82,
that's the thing.
Right?
If we hit 82, it would...
Will it hold up?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a question. 82 was a huge year for movies, so that is a questionable thing. But, yeah, I just figured, like, safe bet. There's enough stuff already for 81.
Yeah.
I was like, safe bet to just leave it out. Yeah. But I probably would have had that one on there if I decided that it was valid. But I checked the original like Australian theatrical release poster and I was like, no, thank you. Yeah. So if you want to know what that looks like, just look that up.
I had one other one that almost made it, which was the Amateur.
Okay.
But it was sort of like
it sounds too porny for me.
Yeah, no, it's about an amateur CIA guy. But it was sort of like. It was more like interesting than good in the poster.
Yes, your favorite phrase.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll spin for.
All right, we're going to spin the wheel for next episode. We've taken the 40s off of here.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about maybe down the line doing like just a general 40s list, maybe.
Yeah.
Just because there's. It's a little tricky.
Yeah, to do the 40s.
To do 1 year of the 40s.
All right, let's go. Around and around and around we go. What do we got here?
There we go.
2019.
I mean, we've done 2020, so that's only 1 year less. But of modern movies.
We also almost had 1982.
Yeah, which would have been hilarious. But with modern movies, I mean, there's so many choices. So I don't think we'll have any trouble. Also, 2019. Pre-COVID, so it's going to be probably a little easier than 2020.
Oh, yes, because 2020 was a lot of Netflix.
There's not just a lot of Netflix, which has posters usually. I guess they're just virtual posters.
Yeah.
But the problem is with 2020 was just drastically reduced number of releases.
Yes, not a lot to pick from. Yeah,
right. Because 2020 was when I had to start going like, okay, what came out in the UK? What came out in Canada?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which I mean, I found ones I liked. It was not a problem on that level, but I had to dig a lot deeper just because there was so few were released. 2019 being pre-COVID, that probably won't be a problem. I imagine there will be a very large number of releases in 2019.
Yes.
So. Yeah, I mean, that's exciting because, I mean, we're always hoping for slightly more, I mean, I love to do old ones too, but, with newer ones, it's just maybe a little easier in some ways. And there's just so much variety in modern posters because you basically have all the previous decades to draw upon and you can kind of find bits and bobs that are like inspired by like any given decade can appear
depending on the style of the movie.
Yeah. Also like they're often very just like nice visually because of like modern
digital. They're not as old, so they get preserved a little better.
Well, and just like the way that we've it's not that kind of old school like either the early digital era where it was like the sort of like Photoshop like old like early Photoshop nightmares, collaging things together digitally in a very nasty way. Or even before that, where it was like done manually, like pasting together to make a picture. But now, of course, you have like very sophisticated digital art and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they just tend to be really nice. You know, it's like when comics switched over to like digital color, and suddenly you had millions of more colors available. Versus like the old like combine these 4 colors in various ways to make all our other colors. Now it's
technology really changed.
Now it's like now we have like basically infinite number of colors. And so like again, it's kind of like that. Like with modern posters, you just have so much more like color depth and richness, and and that's not to say there isn't still a place for like minimalist designs and stuff if they're nice. Like you can still totally do that. I mean that's the thing. It's just with modern stuff you just have so much options because you can kind of do anything.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining and watching along with us here. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with 2019's posters.
2019.
Until then, if you're interested in more of what we do, you can check out What We've Watched podcast, available on all the standard
audio podcast stuff.
And a lot of episodes on there, as well as a number of side projects. And that. So until next time, I'm Chris.
This is Emmett.
Cheers.
Bye bye.